Hello. So me and my group are going to be doing the muscle tissues. So there are three types of muscle tissue. There's smooth, skeletal, and cardiac. And I will be specifying the cardiac muscle. So basically, all muscle tissue in general is responsible for body movement. Specifically, cardiac muscle is responsible for the movement contractions of the heart, and it is located in the walls of the heart. That's where the cardiac tissue is located, and it helps propel blood into circulation, which is very essential for everything that we do in life. Anytime you're moving around, your heart starts beating. You really, and that muscle contracts. That is what's responsible for it. So I have some diagrams that I want to go into, but just like as a brief overview, it's basically a cylinder shaped tissue, and it involves intercalated discs, and it has a ton of nuclei everywhere, which I will show. So as you can see on the screen, I do have a cardiac muscle tissue. So you can kind of see that there's a lot of, it's a cylinder shaped cell. Um, and there's a ton of nuclei. Those are all the little dots, but these are just a ton of cardiac muscle tissue cells together. So if you take a little bit more in-depth look, there's the cardiac muscle cells, there's intercalated discs, and there's, again, the nuclei. So these ones, these cells are important to note that they are, there's one nuclei per cell. So, and it's like I said, it's a cylinder shaped tissue. So pretty much, it's a well vascularized tissue, and everything is packed together very tightly. Um, and all of this is basically containing myofilaments. That's kind of what all these proteins and stuff are. So there's mainly actin and myosin, and there's it's semi-striated. So it's semi-striated because of the um, the protein, the myofilaments inside of it. So pretty much the nuclei, what the nuclei does, it contains the DNA to produce these proteins, which give it, its shape, function, all that good stuff. Um, and the intercalated disc hold the adjacent cells together by providing sites of strong adhesion. So pretty much it's really major for cell-to-cell communication. Um, Without the intercalated discs, there wouldn't be any of that because they all need to contract all together. And again, this is an involuntary response. So pretty much when you're going throughout your day-to-day life, you're not, it's different than moving your hands. This one is your heart is beating on its own all the time. So that's what's meant by involuntary. And again, they need to move all together in unison. So it's important that these are working together in this manner. This is a just more in-depth example of the nucleus, the striations, and the intercalated discs. Again, it's semi-striated. So that's how you can kind of differentiate the muscle cells, because you know that semi-striations are located in the heart. So pretty much just taking a look at the pathology of everything. If your body and your cardiac tissue is not functioning in the way that it's supposed to, again, tied into the contractions of the heart, you are going to be in a lot of trouble. So, pretty much what happens is this can cause things like, skips of beats in the heart if it's not beeping in the right manner, which can be very dangerous because the blood needs to flow together and at a regular rate. If your blood is not flowing to your heart and throughout your body, then it can cause other symptoms such as like swollen limbs, hard time breathing, cardiac arrest, things like that. So, pretty much, you need to take care of yourself. You need to eat healthy. Stress can be a main cause of any kind of like heart problems because when your body's under a lot of stress, your heart can be irregular. You can wear down the muscle inside of it, so it can be pretty dangerous. So you just got to make sure that you're being healthy and taking care of yourself. So to sum it up, cardiac tissue it's different from the other tissues mainly because of the intercalated discs and again the semi-striations. So next up, we're going to be talking about smooth muscle. So get into that.
Smooth muscle is unique in that it has no striations. Therefore, it has a smooth appearance, and that is why we call it smooth muscle. It also controls involuntary movements. That means we cannot choose whether or not our smooth muscle is working or not. For example, the smooth muscle in the organs of our digestive tract. We can't control whether or not fecal matter is moving along our large intestine. It just happens on its own involuntarily. Smooth muscle cells contain one centrally located nucleus, making it mononucleate. And these muscle fibers are arranged very closely together to form sheets, allowing it to act simultaneously and work together to move substances. The fibers made of smooth muscles are the muscle cells that are made of myofilaments containing networks of actin and myosin. And I will go in to show you the composition of smooth muscles. Here we can see a microscopic slide of smooth muscle. Towards the left, we have the longitudinal layer of smooth muscle, and on the right here, we have the circular layer of smooth muscle. And together they form a smooth muscle tissue. As the circular layer
of smooth muscle
contracts and relaxes, items will move across its membrane in a smooth manner. And when one end of the circular layer contracts, that same side next to it longitudinal layer of smooth muscle will relax, and vice versa, as one side of the or one end of the circular layer of smooth muscle contracts, relaxes, that other side of longitudinal layer will relax. And here's an more up close view of the smooth muscle. In the circular layer of smooth muscle, highlighted in blue, we can see that there are no visible striations, and we can see the dense packed sheets of smooth muscle in single rows. We can also see that each fiber only has one nucleus represented in these small, oval, darker pink sections of the fibers. Here's a more up-close view of the individual nuclei in each smooth muscle fiber. And the smooth muscle fibers can be orientated in the same plane, or they can be kind of in different sections, as you see between these two. And that is so we can create that pressure release of the contracting and relaxing to move things along. Smooth muscle is very good at moving things along, especially in our hollow organs in the digestive tract and the female uterus, for example. And here we can see that these fibers are stacked in shape, stacked in layers, so that they can act simultaneously and really work together to create that movement or gliding through our organs. Smooth muscle is found in the digestive tract, and that helps us move food along throughout the whole process, and then that fecal matter to eventually get the waste out of our body. It is also found in the uterus of the female reproductive system, which we cannot control. And so when it's time to have a baby, the uterine muscles will contract and relax the contractions as the child is born. And smooth muscle is also found in blood vessels as they contract and relax, creating this pressure so that blood can flow throughout the body. And in all of those instances, we do not control the movement of the cell and whatnot. Some basic pathology of smooth muscle would be there are multiple conditions, such as cancers and such. One example could be uterine cancer, where cancer cells are growing in that uterus wall and might cause a break or almost a road barrier in the fact that the smooth muscle won't contract and relax as it used to. It may hinder certain substances from moving and gliding throughout the process as it used to be. And another example would be if you had an issue with your smooth muscle in your digestive tract, fecal matter could block up in your large intestine, and that could lead to many issues. And have your waste stay in your body is obviously not a good thing. And so, in conclusion, smooth muscle is involuntary, cannot control its movement. The fact that it is stacked in these layers help them work simultaneously to contract and relax to keep things moving on. It has no striations to create its very smooth appearance.
The muscle tissue I'm going to talk about is a skeletal muscle tissue. The skeletal muscle tissue is the most abundant muscle in our body. In fact, it covers our skeleton and it gives to our body its shape. The skeletal muscle tissue attached to the bones either directly or via connective tissue called tendons. This specific muscle tissue differs from the cardiac and the smooth muscle tissues for different reasons that I would like to share. So as we can see, the skeletal muscle cells has a long and cylindrical shape, which is unique to this specific muscle tissue, since the cardiac has a branched shape and the smooth one has a spinal shape. Also, as we can see, the skeletal muscle tissue is multinucleate, which means that has several nuclei. And again, it's different from the cardiac since it's uninucleate, and the smooth tissue as well, muscle tissue as well. Also, something that is very important to mention is the striations. And this is very important because this allows our muscles to contract and so our body to move. Also, the cardiac muscle tissue has striations as well. In fact, it moves as well. Yes. So other compositions of the skeletal muscle that I would like to share are that the outer layer of the skeletal muscle is the epimysium. The epimysium is made of layers of connective tissue, more specifically of dense irregular connective tissue. And this is important to know because these layers protect the muscle itself from abrasion or fractions against against other muscles or bones. Moreover, the skeletal muscle cells, which are the muscle fibers, are branched all together into fascicles. And the fascicles are surrounded by another connective tissue called endomysium. And inside of the fascicles, we can find the individual muscle cells called myocytes, and they are surrounded again by connective tissue called endomysium. The main functions of the skeletal muscle tissue are that it protects our organs, it supports our posture, it provides it helps to maintain optimal body temperature by releasing heat, and something that is very common for the skeletal muscle tissue is that produce voluntary movement, which is again unique to only this muscle tissue. And the voluntary movement, it's released by the somatic nervous system. So talking about pathology and the most common diseases, muscular dystrophy is a group of disease that causes problems and progressive weakness and the loss of the muscle mass. And this is highly genetic, unlike atrophy, that it is not genetic.